Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is a program you're not going to want to miss. Everyone says that in broadcasting, but this is when I really mean it. We're honored to be joined by Elie Honig, who is a senior legal analyst at CNN, former federal and state prosecutor and author of a really compelling book called Hatchet Man: How Bill Barr Broke the Prosecutor's Code and Corrupted the United States Justice Department. Elie, good to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Elie, let's get right into it. This is not a book you put down easily, especially as you start reading your analysis of Bill Barr. What is the prosecutor's code that he broke, and how badly did he break it?
So the prosecutor's code, Steve, is all those things, the unwritten rules that you learn as a prosecutor, and that I argue in the book you can only learn from actually doing the job in the trenches, like I did in Manhattan and in New Jersey. Now, Bill Barr, interesting fact about him, he's one of two people in our history who was ever Attorney General of the United States twice. His first tenure was 1991 to 93 under George H.W. Bush, and of course then under Donald Trump. However, Bill Barr never prosecuted, never tried a single criminal case in court. And so what I do throughout the book is I contrast my experiences as a real prosecutor and the things I learned, the hard-earned lessons from the courtroom, from judges, from defense lawyers. Each one of them sort of amplifies a principle that you have to learn, the unwritten rule, the prosecutor's code, which Bill Barr shattered during his tenure as Attorney General.
So I want to read this section. Bill Barr's unprecedented abuse of power as Attorney General, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He broke the prosecutor's code. Bill Barr's self-image rehab tour has begun. Don't buy it, says Elie Honig. Barr tells tales of denying the big lie after the election of 2020, but omits that he aggressively promoted that lie in the crucial months before the election. What does the Attorney General have to do with the big lie, quote unquote, the big lie of the 2020 election?
It's a good question, Steve. He should have had nothing to do with it, and he is on an image rehab tour. This is a big reason why I wrote the book, because I believe history needs to be told. So Bill Barr has been reminding us, he's doing these sort of one-sided interviews lately, where he's reminding us that in December of 2020, he came out and said publicly there's no evidence of election fraud.
He did.
Yes, he did. I mentioned that in the book. I give him credit for that in the book. This is 3 weeks after the election, however. What he fails to mention during his rehab tour, and what I mention in the book, is that for about 6 months leading up to the election, when the big lie was being created by Donald Trump and spread, Bill Barr was one of the main people fanning those flames. He went on national TV, he went on national radio, he went in front of Congress, and he said there's this massive threat of election fraud, foreign ballots, counterfeit ballots, things we can't possibly police. And every time when he was asked for evidence, he said, well, I don't have any, but it's common sense. It's something I know. And by the way, several times DOJ or the station that put him on had to issue corrections after the fact because he was spreading falsehoods.
To what end? To what end? And by the way, Donald Trump is not particularly positive about in terms of after everything you just said, Elie. Donald Trump, former President Trump, doesn't say nice things about Bill Barr. So to what end? He's not even on the in with the former president.
Yeah, they did split at the very end. So I think Bill Barr's motivations, I think, changed. I think initially he was hoping and trying to help Donald Trump get reelected. And he has said publicly before the election that he was hoping to serve a second term. Bill Barr clung very tightly to the Attorney General's position because he is a legal extremist. He believes the president should be basically above the law entirely. And I talk about that in the book. And Bill Barr was driven by a deep-seated religious incentive, religious motivation. Now, there's nothing wrong with being religious. However, Bill Barr tried to bring that religiosity, what he calls God's law, to the Attorney General's position, to our general public. Now, when the election came, when it was over, when it was clear to any right-minded individual, certainly Bill Barr is a sane, rational, smart person, that it was over, Bill Barr at that point made a conscious decision. I'm going to try to rescue my reputation. I don't want to be lumped in with the true loonies, the Rudy Giulianis, the Sidney Powells, the Jenna Ellises. And so we had this partial turn on Trump at that point.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that, again, there are some people who are confused and think that the Attorney General is the president's lawyer. He is not. She is not. Correct?
Correct, Steve. Decidedly not. When the Attorney General gets sworn in, he or she does not swear to represent the president, but to protect the people of the United States and the U.S. Constitution. And that is sort of my fundamental critique of Bill Barr.
To what degree do you find that the respective judiciary committees in the House and the Senate give a darn about what you're saying right now as the oversight body for not just the president, but for the attorney general, the executive branch of government?
Yeah, look, I think Congress has a real job to do here. I'm fairly critical of Congress in the book. I argue Congress failed to do its job to follow up on, for example, the Mueller report.
I was just going to ask you about the Mueller report,
yeah,
and Bill Barr, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I think that I want Congress to understand its role. I want DOJ to get back to the basic principles of its role, that they don't represent the president, that you have to tell the truth, something Bill Barr frequently did not do. I want the general public to understand how abnormal and how destructive Bill Barr's tenure was.
You know, let's stay on the rule of law. And this, again, we try to separate our interviews, but on the second half of this program, we interviewed Barbara Ress, who worked for 18 years with Donald Trump, for and with Donald Trump on the construction and development side. She's a quote in the book where she said basically, there was no law he wasn't willing to break. If that's true, even remotely true, that the rule of law meant nothing to him, means nothing to him, then what would that say about his attorney general's role working for someone for whom the rule of law not only has no place, but I won, my rules?
I'll take it a step further. Not only did that apparently have no resonance for Bill Barr, but Bill Barr enabled and protected Donald Trump in what I argue are dishonest and counter to the law ways. I mean, start with the Mueller report, right? I argue in the book, Bill Barr single-handedly enabled Donald Trump to escape the consequences of the Mueller report by lying to us about it. So let me give a timeline here. Bill Barr is the first person essentially outside of Mueller's team to get the Mueller report. He gets it on a Friday. 2 days later, on a Sunday, Bill Barr issues his infamous 4-page letter in which he essentially declares Donald Trump free and clear altogether. Now, here's the thing people may not remember that I point out in the book. Bill Barr then held on to the Mueller report, kept it away from the public, kept it away from Congress for 27 days. And during that crucial month, all the public had, was Bill Barr's slanted report, where Bill Barr says he leaves out all the bad stuff for Donald Trump and gives us only the good stuff. He declares Donald Trump did not commit obstruction of justice, contrary to my view and the view of over 2,000 other prosecutors who've since signed a letter saying so. So Bill Barr was not only dishonest, and by the way, don't just take it from me. Robert Mueller wrote Bill Barr a letter complaining about the way he characterized the report. Various federal judges have said Bill Barr was dishonest in the way he handled the report. Not only was he dishonest, he was manipulative in the way he withheld it from us all.
Let me ask you something, Ellie. There are going to be some people who watch this program, and also the second half with Barbara Rez, who say, Adebado's doing a program that just bashes Donald Trump, that bashes those who are connected to Donald Trump like Bill Barr. Where's the value in that? That's, quote, left-wing, fake news, et cetera, et cetera. We're public broadcasting. We have no horse in the race. If there's someone who writes a book out there that talks about what a great president Donald Trump was, what a great Attorney General Bill Barr was, and does it in a substantive way, we look forward to that conversation. Here's the long-winded point to that question. Do you have an axe to grind? Do you have a point of view? Or is it the rule of law and the Department of Justice and its sense of integrity moving forward?
The only thing I'm a purist on, Steve, is the role of the prosecutor. I don't care about left or right, Democrats or Republicans. And I can prove it, by the way, that I had no axe to grind with Bill Barr. I quote myself in the book because it just so happened the day Bill Barr's name was announced as the person Donald Trump would be nominating as Attorney General, I was sitting there on set at CNN, and they got my earpiece and said, can you give us a comment on that? They gave me a couple minutes. I looked him up. I knew who he was because he had been AG in the past. And I just sort of did some research. And I said on air, I asked a producer to pull my quote, so I had it exactly. But I said something like, he's serious, he's respected, he looks like a strong pick. I put that in there because I think it's important for people to know. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and then some. And by the way, a day or two later, it came out that he had written this, what I call the audition memo, where he on his own wrote a 20-page letter and sent it in to DOJ saying that Robert Mueller's investigation was, quote, fatally misconceived. At that point, I started to have some concerns, I think rightly so. But no, I don't have it out for Bill Barr whatsoever. He earned this with his own conduct.
Yeah, by the way, this is the book, Hatchet Man. Real quick, as a grad, you're not former anything, I'm an alum of the Eagleton Institute of Politics at Rutgers University. You have a connection to the Institute and our good friend John Farmer, the director there. What is it?
Well, first of all, I am an Eagleton undergrad associate. I was back in the 90s when I graduated from Rutgers. It was a thrill to do it, and it's great to go back to the mansion now. I'm now a faculty associate.
But the mansion Eagleton is let's just say the Woodlawn campus is gorgeous. Let's just say that.
It is a beautiful old mansion, and it was a thrill to walk in there the first time. I since have given speeches and done programs with them, and I'm teaching, not to put an ad in, but it's our public university. I'm teaching a course there in the spring at Eagleton on politics and prosecution, which should not mix. That's the bottom line. But yeah, so I'm an Eagleton guy just like you, Steve.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask this the right way. Are you optimistic for the Department of Justice to regain what its appropriate role is in our very delicate federal government and its independence?
I am optimistic, Steve, because I worked there for equal time under Republican and Democrat administrations before Bill Barr was ever there. I know that what really drives DOJ is the thousands of women and men who are prosecutors and investigators and victim service specialists who put their heads down and do their job. Bill Barr did enormous damage to DOJ, but DOJ is too resilient, and they will be back.
Ellie Honig is the author of Hatchet Man, How Bill Barr broke the prosecutor's code and corrupted the Department of Justice. And you can catch him on CNN, and he's down there with our good friends at the Eagleton Institute. Ellie, all the best.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.